I should have kept driving. That's the truth. The rain was heavy. The road was empty. And I told myself I wasn't that man anymore. Then I saw the flashing lights. Red, blue, fading in and out like a heartbeat trying to quit. I slowed down. I don't know why. Maybe I do. Because 5 years ago someone didn't stop for my wife. And I've never forgiven the world for that. When I stepped out of my truck, the rain hit hard enough to sting. The patrol car was overturned, smoke rising from the hood. Glass everywhere. The kind of wreck you don't walk away from. But she was still breathing. Barely. Her badge caught my flashlight first. Then her face. Blood across her cheek. Eyes fighting to stay open. Back up, she whispered. They're not coming. Something inside me broke. I told myself to call 911 to stay out of it. To remember I had a daughter waiting at home. But when I saw the wound across her abdomen, when I saw how fast she was fading, I was back overseas. Back in the dark. Back where seconds decide who lives. Stay with me, I told her, pressing my jacket hard against the bleeding. My hands didn't shake. They never do when it matters. She grabbed my wrist, stronger than I expected. They're watching, she breathed. I looked into her eyes then. Really looked. Fear, pain, and something else. Determination. She didn't want to die. Not like this. Then we don't give them the show, I said quietly. I ran to my truck. The old medical kit was still there. I kept it for reasons I never admitted out loud. Maybe for this moment. When I came back, she was slipping. Hey, I said, kneeling beside her. What's your name? Sarah? Of course it was. For a second I couldn't breathe. Because that was my wife's name. And I realized something terrifying in that rain. I wasn't just trying to save her. I was trying to rewrite my past, and that never ends cleanly. I told myself her name didn't mean anything. It was just a coincidence. But when she said Sarah, something inside me cracked open. For a second, I wasn't on that forest road. I was 5 years back. Different rain. Different sirens. Same uniform. I forced myself to focus. Stay with me, Sarah, I said, my voice calm even though my chest felt tight. Talk to me. Why'd you become a cop? She tried to smile. It hurt her. I could see it. Wanted to matter. That did something to me. Because that's why my wife wore the badge too. I worked fast. Cut the seatbelt. Packed the wound. The bleeding was bad. Worse than she realized. My hands moved on instinct, pressing, sealing, wrapping. She screamed once, then bit her lip to stop. You don't have to be brave, I told her. Yes, she whispered, I do. The gas smell grew stronger. The engine sparked somewhere behind us. We didn't have time. I'm going to move you, I said. She looked at me like she was measuring something, not my strength, my intention. Why are you helping me? She asked softly. I hesitated. Because the truth was too heavy. Because no one helped her, I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes changed. Not confusion, understanding. She didn't ask who her was. She just nodded slightly, like she already knew it was someone important. I lifted her carefully. She gasped, fingers gripping my shirt. You're not dying tonight, I told her. You sound very sure, she breathed. I've seen worse. That wasn't bravado. It was memory. As I carried her away from the wreck, the patrol car exploded behind us. Heat slammed into my back. I threw myself over her without thinking. For a second, everything was fire. When the noise faded, she was staring up at me. Rain mixing with blood across her face. You're insane, she murmured. Maybe. Or maybe I was just tired of losing people in the rain. And as I lifted her again and started walking toward the road, I realized something dangerous. I didn't just want her to survive. I needed her to. 1/2 mile uphill. In the rain. With a dying woman on my shoulders. I've carried men twice her size through worse terrain. But this felt heavier, because she wasn't a soldier. She was someone's daughter, someone's partner, someone who still believed in making a difference. And somehow, that made her more fragile to me. Jack, she whispered against my back. Her voice was thinner now. Yeah, I'm here. You have a daughter. It wasn't a question. I almost smiled. Even bleeding out, she noticed things. Ella, she's 10. She draws, Sarah murmured. There's a picture in your jacket pocket. I swallowed. That picture was from this morning. A stick figure of her and me holding hands. Under it she'd written, "Don't be late." I won't be, I said quietly. I wasn't sure who I was promising that to. Her breathing hitched. I adjusted my grip. You don't look like a delivery driver, she said faintly. I'm not much of anything anymore. That's not true. Her words landed somewhere deep. Somewhere I'd locked away. Rain soaked through both of us. Every step jarred her wound. She didn't complain, not once. You're married? She asked suddenly. The question caught me off guard. Was. Silence. I'm sorry. I didn't want her pity. But I didn't want her distance either. She wore the same uniform. I added before I could stop myself. Sarah's fingers tightened weakly against my shoulder. Is that why you looked at me like that? Like what? Like you were about to lose me before you even knew me. That hit too close. Because she was right. I was fighting two battles in that storm. One in the present, one 5 years old. We reached the road just as headlights appeared in the distance. Relief flooded me so hard my knees nearly buckled. I laid her down gently. Knelt beside her. Stay with me, I whispered again. Her eyes searched mine. Not scared anymore, just steady. You came back, she said softly. I frowned. Of course I did. No, she breathed. You came back to yourself. And that scared me more than the cartel ever could, because if she was right, then the man I buried 5 years ago wasn't dead. I didn't stay at the hospital. That's the part I'm not proud of. When the ambulance doors closed and the sirens faded, I felt it creeping in and that pull back toward something. I promised Ella I'd never touch again. So I left. I told myself she'd be fine. The paramedics saw the stitching. One of them looked at me like he recognized something. Military, he asked. Used to be, I said. Used to be. I drove home with my hands tight on the wheel. Rain still falling. My reflection in the windshield looked older than 40. When I walked into the house, Ella was asleep on the couch. TV still on. She tried to wait up. I knelt beside her and brushed her hair back. Don't be late, her drawing had said. I wasn't, but I was different. The next morning I was flipping pancakes when there was a knock at the door. Not a normal knock, measured official. 2 detectives. And a captain. They weren't smiling. You carried her half a mile, the captain said. Through an active crime scene. She was dying. You stitched her with military precision. I didn't answer that. They knew anyway. When they mentioned the cartel, something cold moved through my chest. When they mentioned my wife's case, it stopped being about questions. It became about memory. Coincidence? The captain asked carefully. I looked him in the eye. I stopped because she needed help. That's it. That wasn't the full truth. The full truth was messier, because when I looked at Sarah bleeding in the rain, I didn't just see an officer. I saw unfinished business. Before they left, the captain paused at the door. She asked about you, he said. My chest tightened in a way I didn't expect. She's asking who you are. I forced my expression to stay calm. She doesn't need to know. But that wasn't true either, because part of me wanted her to. And that's when I realized something dangerous. I hadn't stayed at the hospital, but I hadn't walked away either. I shouldn't have gone to see her. That's what I told myself the entire drive to County General. I said I was just making sure she was stable, just closing the loop, just being responsible. But the truth? I needed to see her breathing. When I stepped into her hospital room, she was awake. Paler, weaker, but alive. Her eyes found me before I could speak. You came, she said softly. It wasn't accusation. It was relief. Just checking on my work, I replied. Defensive, distant. She gave the smallest smile. Your stitching is impressive. I've had practice. There was a pause. Not awkward, just heavy with things unsaid. Up close, without blood and rain between us. She looked younger, human, not just a uniform in crisis. You left before I could say thank you, she said. You were in good hands. I felt safer before the ambulance, she answered quietly. That caught me off guard. I shifted in the chair. You were in shock. No, she said, studying me. I wasn't. That look again, like she could see through me. You've done this before, she added. Too many times. Combat? I nodded once. Her eyes softened. Not pity, respect. That explains the way you don't panic. I do panic, I said. I just don't let it show. Silence stretched between us. Comfortable this time. Then she surprised me. Why did you really stop? She asked. There it was. The question I'd been avoiding. I could have said coincidence, duty, instinct. Instead, I told the truth. Because I lost someone in that same uniform, I said quietly. And I couldn't watch it happen again. Her expression shifted. Not sympathy, connection. I'm not her, she said gently. I know. But you looked at me like you were trying to save more than one person. She wasn't wrong. And that scared me, because sitting there beside her hospital bed, I realized this wasn't just about redemption anymore. It was becoming something I wasn't prepared for. And I didn't know if I had room in my life for that. I should have kept it professional. That was the plan. Check on her recovery, answer a few questions, leave. But I stayed longer than I meant to. She was sitting up now a little stronger. Sunlight cutting across her hospital bed. Without the rain and blood, she didn't look fragile. She looked stubborn. You have that guarded look again, she said. What look? Like you're about to walk away before something gets complicated. That hit closer than I liked. I have a daughter, I said quietly. Complicated isn't something I can afford. Her expression softened, but she didn't back down. And what am I? She asked. Complicated? I hesitated. You're a cop chasing a cartel that doesn't miss, I answered. And you're a man who ran from a war just to end up in another one. That stung, because she wasn't wrong. I didn't run, I said. You disappeared, she corrected gently. The room went quiet. She studied me like she had that night in the rain, measuring intention, not strength. Captain Stone wants you consulting, she said after a moment. I know. Are you going to? I didn't answer right away, because saying yes meant stepping back into something dangerous. But saying no meant pretending I didn't care. And I cared. About the officers. About the case. About her. I don't go into the field, I finally said. I won't carry a gun. She held my gaze. You don't need one, she said softly. You already carry enough. There it was again. That connection I didn't ask for. She reached for the bracelet sitting on the bedside table, the one I'd lost that night. She held it out to me. Never leave a fallen, she read. Her fingers brushed mine as I took it. Just a second, but it felt longer. Dangerous. Because for the first time since my wife died, I didn't just feel responsible for someone. I felt drawn to her, and that made everything harder. I told myself I could handle consulting, strategy, training, distance. Distance was safe. But the first time I walked into that police briefing room, she was already there. Standing, recovered enough to be back on duty. Seeing her in uniform again did something to my chest I wasn't prepared for. She caught my eye across the room. Didn't smile. Just held my gaze a second longer than necessary, like we shared something no one else in that room understood. Captain Stone introduced me as tactical support. I hated that phrase. I wasn't support. I was the ghost of mistakes past. We reviewed the cartel warehouse layout, entry points, blind spots, escape routes. They'll run rear exit, I said quietly. How do you know? One officer asked. Because it's what I'd do. The room went still. Sarah watched me carefully, not afraid, just aware. After the meeting, she followed me outside. You okay? She asked. I'm fine. That wasn't convincing. I exhaled slowly. You shouldn't be back yet. I heal fast. That's not what I meant. She stepped closer, not too close, just enough that I could feel her presence. You don't get to protect me from my own job, she said. I'm not trying to control you. Then what are you trying to do? I didn't answer right away, because the truth was messy. I'm trying not to watch another woman in that uniform die, I said finally. Her jaw tightened slightly. I'm not your wife, Jack. I know. But you look at me like you're bracing for impact. That silence again. The kind that pulls instead of pushes. I can't lose someone like that again, I admitted. Her expression shifted. Softer now. That sounds less like strategy, she said quietly, and more like fear. She wasn't wrong. And the worst part? I didn't know if I was scared of losing her, or scared of needing her. And as the raid date approached, I realized something dangerous. Distance wasn't protecting me anymore. It was only making the pull stronger. The morning of the raid, I almost backed out. I sat in my truck outside the station, engine running, hands tight on the wheel. This wasn't my war anymore. But when I walked into the command unit and saw her adjusting her vest, focused, steady, I knew I wasn't here for the cartel. I was here for her. You don't have to look at me like that, she said without turning around. Like what? Like you're already saying goodbye. That hit harder than it should have. I'm not, I said. Good, she replied softly. Because I'm not planning on dying today. There it was again. That calm bravery. It both terrified me and pulled me closer. When the operation started, I stayed inside the mobile unit with Captain Stone, screens, radios, controlled chaos. But my attention wasn't on the building. It was on her voice over the radio. Clear, strong. Then gunfire erupted. My body reacted before my mind did. Team 3, hold rear exit, I ordered into the mic. They'll push back. Seconds later, footsteps on gravel. Shouting, exactly as predicted. Then her voice again. Suspect has a detonator. Everything inside me went cold. Sarah, I said into the radio, forgetting protocol. Listen to me. Silence, then her breath. I'm here. Do you see the wire? Yes. Don't let him touch that door. Take the shot. There was a pause, a long one, the kind that stretches across a lifetime. Then one gunshot. Clear, clean. Target down. The entire unit exhaled at once, but I didn't. Not until she walked out of that warehouse alive. When she climbed into the command vehicle afterward. Helmet off, eyes bright with adrenaline, She looked at me differently, not like a ghost from her worst night, but like someone she trusted. "You believed I could make that shot," she said quietly. "I knew you could." Her gaze softened. "And if I couldn't?" I didn't answer, because the truth was simple. If she hadn't made that shot, I would have gone in, no matter the promise I made. And that realization scared me more than the gunfire ever did. After the raid, everyone celebrated. 0 casualties. Major arrests. Headlines calling it a victory. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt exposed, because when I saw her walk out of that warehouse alive, the relief hit me too hard, too personal. That wasn't strategy. That was attachment. She found me later that night outside the station. I was leaning against my truck, trying to breathe like this was just another operation. "You were ready to come in after me," she said quietly. It wasn't a question. I didn't deny it. "You weren't supposed to be on the radio like that," she added. "I forgot." "You don't forget." She stepped closer, close enough that the noise from inside the station faded. "You said my name," she continued. "Not Officer Miles, just Sarah." I looked away. "That's dangerous," she whispered. "For who?" I asked. "For both of us." There it was. The truth neither of us had wanted to touch. "You almost died in the rain," I said. "You almost died tonight." I don't do well with almost. And I don't do well with being treated like someone you're trying to replace. That stopped me. "I'm not replacing anyone," I said. "But you're still living in that moment," she replied gently. "And I can't compete with a ghost." The word stung, because part of me knew she was right. I wasn't falling for her. I was trying to outrun my past through her. Or maybe I was lying to myself. Because when she looked at me the way she was looking now, steady, open, not afraid, it didn't feel like memory. It felt new. "You don't have to save me," she said softly. "I know." "Then stop acting like I'm already lost." Silence stretched between us, the kind that changes things. "I don't know how to want something without fearing it'll be taken," I admitted. Her expression softened. "That's honest," she said. Then she did something I didn't expect. She reached for my hand, just held it, no rush, no drama, and in that small, quiet contact, I realized the real danger wasn't losing her. It was letting myself love her, and I still didn't know if I was brave enough for that. Part 10. I didn't sleep that night. Her hand in mine kept replaying in my head, not dramatic, not desperate, just steady, and that terrified me more than gunfire ever has. For years, my world has been small on purpose: work, home, Ella, repeat, safe, predictable. Love didn't fit in that structure anymore. The next afternoon, I was teaching a civilian CPR class when she walked in. No uniform, just jeans, soft sweater, hair down. She looked different. Not Officer Miles, just Sarah. I almost forgot what I was saying mid-sentence. After class, Ella ran up to me. "Dad, you were awesome." Then she noticed Sarah. "Oh," Ella said, studying her like only a 13-year-old can. "You're the cop." Sarah smiled. "Guilty." Ella crossed her arms. "Are you going to get shot again?" I nearly choked. Sarah crouched down to her level. "I'm planning not to." Ella considered that, then looked at me. "You like her?" she said plainly. I opened my mouth to deny it, but I didn't, because I was tired of pretending. "I respect her," I corrected carefully. Ella rolled her eyes. "That's not what I asked." Sarah laughed softly. That sound did something to me. Later, after Ella went inside to grab her backpack, Sarah and I stood by my truck. "I don't want to be a replacement," she said gently. "And I don't want to be a risk you resent." "You're neither." "Then what am I?" I looked at her. Really looked. Not through memory, not through fear. Just her. "You're someone I didn't expect," I said quietly. "And I don't know how to do this without worrying I'll lose it." She stepped closer. "You don't get guarantees," she said. "You just get chances." I swallowed. "I'm not good at second chances." "Then think of it as a first one," she replied. And for the first time since my wife died, I didn't feel like I was trying to rewrite the past. I felt like I was choosing a future. I reached for her hand, not to save her, not to protect her, just to hold it. And this time, I didn't let go. Part 10, total 356 words.